Welcome to the Pathfinder podcast, my friends. I'm Lori Gama. I interview business leaders here in my wonderful community of Greeley, Colorado. And today my guest is Craig Rasmuson. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you.
So, Craig, you have done many wonderful things in your life. You're the CEO, founder, and director of Syrcuit Energy Solutions based in Greeley, Colorado. You have 30 years of professional experience in operations, organizational management, executive leadership. You previously served as the COO of Synergy Resources Corporation for over a decade, guiding the company through significant growth until its successful sale. Then, in 2021, you established Syrcuit Energy Solutions to help the Rocky Mountain region meet its rapidly growing energy needs. You're married to the brilliant and beautiful Tara Rasmuson, and together you guys have 6 wonderful children.
Yeah, those are 7 of my biggest life accomplishments right there, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. That's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah.
Now, you had an interesting career change before you got into the world of energy industry. Can you walk us through your journey from going from head basketball coach and then into the energy industry?
Yeah. As you said, very unique, but I'm very thankful for my 12 years as a head basketball coach early in my professional career. Kind of right time, right place on getting a job back in Eastern Tennessee at the age of 25 that we were able to have and grow success with enough to have a headhunter call me on the University of Northern Colorado job in 1999. And then to be able to interview and then acquire that job and be the chosen coach to take the program in that capacity from the North Central Conference and NCAA Division II to ultimately the Big Sky Conference and NCAA Division I. You learn so much as a coach, and the skill set is just crazy. All the things you have to balance and learn. So very, very thankful for that foundation that qualified me to help a great group of men and ladies that were our Synergy team from 2008 to 2020, and our ultimate merger with a bigger, larger oil and gas operator. But all the things I learned at every chapter of every opportunity qualify me to go ahead and lead Syrcuit Energy today, and a lot of the folks that were impactful and part of our team at Synergy are either on my board of directors or investors with the company or landowners that we're trying to stand up projects on. So it's just amazing the tight network that Greeley and Greater Greeley Weld County has afforded me, and I'm very appreciative of those relationships and that network.
I am too. I think Greeley is just the best community to live in. I've said that over and over on previous episodes of my podcast, and that was one of the reasons I started my podcast, was just to get more information out there about Greeley and let people know how wonderful it is here.
That's awesome, and when I am honored to be here today and participate in that. I through my wife and Tara and your relationship with her and the fact that you had her on about a year ago, that is, she's like, you have to do that because it's our passion too. Greeley and raising kids here, building business here, giving back to our community, working with nonprofits, and it's easy for folks that have the ability to write a check to support things outside of their everyday life, but when you give your time to something, that truly is what I think is the best use of our network and our abilities and our knowledge base, is to try to give back in those capacities.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a bit more about that in a few minutes. But so who were some of the key people who guided or mentored you along the way? What kind of impact did they have on you?
There's the list is long, obviously, and starting with dad and uncles and high school coaches to high school social studies teacher to professors in college and college coach. But then certainly working as an assistant coach in my first tenure of coaching, those head coaches that I worked for, I had two wonderful men, Roger Lyons and Keith Dambrot, that influenced me greatly. And I was able to then go work for a gentleman by the name of Ben Braun at Eastern Michigan University during my graduate school window of time. And it just, the list is long. You know, here recently, and folks that are here local, certainly Ed Holloway, and he had 3 iterations of oil and gas privately owned companies, and I crossed paths with him. He remembered me from my coaching days, and literally on a business deal that I was representing a company that was going to include his company in a development. And he got the letter from me saying, I only know one Craig Rasmuson and only one that spells it the way we spell it, our Rasmussen clan. And he said, I didn't know Coach was still in town, was his reaction. And then he, at that time, was considering standing up the publicly traded company of Synergy Resources, and says, I need my business partner and I need to get lunch with you. You may be a good fit for what we're looking to do. So I was fortunate in 2008 to be the first employee of Synergy Resources, and really the only paid employee for a period of time. Those guys had their other ventures, so they weren't taking salaries for a period of time. And the downturn of '08's economy and became opportunistic for us to build a land position and to create a foundation of growth and development opportunity, while others were kind of freezing budgets and not spending. We had put some capital aside to go ahead and build. And just what I learned from Ed and Bill Scaff, who serves on my board at Syrcuit Energy, his business partner of nearly 3 decades and all their other ventures, who was the co-CEO of Synergy. He lives down in South Denver, but he makes a great impact in Greeley. He was one of the biggest spenders at Cattle Barons Ball this past year, and other events that we drag him to because he is such a generous person. And that's, you learn from those folks, not just finance and technical, but you learn how to build business, how to create culture, how to treat people, and how to get people to buy in to the vision of the business and then make the business successful. So just extremely grateful for the opportunities that came my way, the hard decisions you had to make. I am going to join these guys, even though they've got nothing right now. I can learn a ton from them, and I want to help them make this business successful. And then I'm doing that with our team now, bringing along some folks that this is their first shot at a venture of this size and scale, and trying to articulate to them and show them, lead them by example. Here's how we do things, so they can have their most of my team, aside from my CFO, who was our vice president of finance at Synergy, are all 10 to 15 years junior to me, and afford them the chance to do this when they're in their 50s. And I learn a lot from them every day. I think we all need to be open-minded and always learn.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
All the generations can learn from each other, I think.
100%.
And I bet you have tons of people that you have mentored that you might not even know you mentored them, but they'll always remember the moments that you did.
Yeah, I look back, and my son, he's going to be 24 here soon. He was 5 when I was done coaching, and he's like, tell me about, he sees pictures of himself at practice and shooting baskets. He couldn't get the ball to the rim, but with my former athletes. And we'll go to a UNC game now, and some of those guys are still local, and we'll run across them, and those guys will come up and give me a hug, and my son's like, I don't remember him, but I'm so glad that he, has excitement when he sees you and the impact you made on him. And so, I had athletes that came from all upbringings, from all parts of the country. And so, one, I learned from them, but two, I appreciated being a mentor to them, even outside of teaching them basketball and trying to put team concepts together to be successful.
Nice.
It's what you do in the locker room. It's what you do when you have them one-on-one in your office, and the life skills that you can go ahead. We had some really neat and opportunistic wins and some successful years. I was the guy that took UNC Division I, so we had a lot of ugly years because we literally played Syracuse and Kansas and Texas Tech with Bob Knight and Gonzaga with Mark Few. And we were an independent, we weren't in a conference, so we played some of the most amazing places. And of course, you weren't going to be successful in those, but they were all part of our foundation of building recognition for UNC and for the transition to Division I. And the athletes had some, even when you got your brains beat in, you had some great successful experiences from that. But my most cherished moments were when there's one athlete in particular, a gentleman by the name of Parrish Brockman, who I've fallen out of contact with, but he was from Denver East High School, and he was a first-generation college graduate for his family. And he brought up a contingent of about 40 relatives, and at graduation at Nottingham Field, the eruption when his name was announced was louder than anyone else's name that day, and that it was more impactful and more fulfilling to me than beating North Dakota State. When you're in something that you're leading folks to better themselves and their families and their opportunities, that's more gratifying than anything.
That's wonderful, Craig.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
We're going to switch gears to like work-life balance. How do you balance work with getting to see your family and your parents too? It's kind of challenging for a lot of people.
It is really challenging, and I have to give credit to Tara. She helps me there. Both of us are entrepreneurs, and I'm amazed at the amount of time she puts into creating her publication, Greeley Lifestyle, every month. The grind it is to go.
Love that magazine.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful addition to our community, and
it is.
And kudos to her. I was a skeptic when she said I want to buy this franchise opportunity and bring this to Greeley. I'm like, and it was during COVID. She launched in late 20, and as far as getting it off the ground, and then launched her first magazine was March of 21, if I remember correctly. And I check myself often there. I don't think I'm great at work-life balance. I do let my phone consume me. I do but I just had a long conversation with my son, who's living in Arizona these days, and his professional growth in life, and it was like I had been at a conference the last 3 days, and I texted him on the ride home. I said, I haven't heard from you. And he says, well, I know you're busy. And I'm like, no. I want to catch up. Call me tonight. And he's a flight instructor trying to become a commercial pilot, building his hours. And he says, well, I've got a flight until about 8, and I'll call you then. And sure enough, I'm watching a game on TV last night and getting some checkout time from a busy couple days of professional life. And it was the biggest, most accomplished thing I did yesterday was the conversations I had with him. Yeah. It is, you just have to make it a priority.
Right.
I've got to get better at putting my phone down at dinner, or if one of my stepsons is asking me a question, I need to engage. And I check, and I think I do a wonderful job with that in the moment, but I can always do better. And it's, Tara gave me kudos. We just got back from seeing my mom kind of pre her 84th birthday, and just, thankful to have those opportunities, and Dad also. And she says, you are doing an amazing job getting back every couple months to see them. They live in upstate New York where I was raised, and it's a long way, and it's a commitment. But fortunately, I have an amazing team at Syrcuit. Our kids are all old enough and independent enough that we can say, hey, we need to be gone for 3 days, whether that's for family or for travel and pleasure and reset. But it just, I think all of us can do better there.
Oh yeah, I
Always.
totally agree.
Yep.
I totally agree.
Yep.
And I think that you are better than what you're giving yourself credit for. I could just tell. So keep up the good work.
If I could, I'd never give myself New Year's resolutions because I break them by like the January 3rd. But that would be one that really, I saw something on a reel on some social media where a gentleman said, "This is what I'm going to be this year." And I said, "That's so admirable. I need to be that too."
Nice.
I didn't make a resolution, but I'm trying to be better.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So looking back at your time in both coaching and in business, what do you consider your most significant accomplishment? And I bet that's hard to answer because I bet you have a lot of accomplishments.
Yeah, I've lived a blessed life that, hitching your wagon to the right people and or making good business decisions as far as, making the decision to leave Lincoln Memorial University in rural Appalachia of eastern Tennessee to come here when my daughter was 2. She's now 28 and in her final stages of being qualified as a PA. She's in her rotations now after getting the didactyl classroom stuff out of the way the last 15 months. And
Nice.
those are, to me, 2 huge accomplishments are what your kids are.
Yeah.
And what they do for society, and teaching them to give time, not just a donation to folks that need, that aren't as fortunate as we've created for ourselves or worked hard to attain. Certainly, and to be quite honest with you, I think directly, being the father to Tara's kids. They're my stepchildren, but they've had challenging things in their lives, and I just wanted them to see a healthy relationship, so they could be great husbands or great spouses. She does have a daughter and then 3 sons, and treat them as I treat my own. It's amazing to me. I think one of our biggest accomplishments for her and I both is how great our Brady bunch of 6 kids get along. They're 28 down to, we have one still at home who's at university as a sophomore, and 15, but when we get them together, if we're lucky to get everyone together one time a year with everyone kind of being scattered and at the different stages of college and post-college, they get along great, and they all have each other's back. They tease each other, they rib each other, but they have unbelievable loyalty, and that's a huge accomplishment. I think what we did at UNC, even though our record wouldn't show that, is very impressive. To be able to be a group that set the table for the programs to be successful. 5 years after my departure, they were playing in the NCAA tournament, Division I, and that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's a vision of people like Dick Montfort and Catch Lightning in a Bottle. We're going to, and the volleyball program and the wrestling program with Andrew Lira's and his. Those are all things that the previous regimes set the foundation for. So I do get great pride going to UNC games and have the success Coach Smiley's having this year. I get great pride in that as a former coach. What we did at Synergy was very special. I am one of the highlights of my life. I got to stand as Ed Holloway rang the opening bell on Wall Street.
Wow.
And so in 2012, I'm, in the building, and he's pushing the button, and the bell's going off, and we're opening the day of trading, and just, in the financial district of Manhattan, and I'm like, I have arrived as a businessman.
Yes.
And not many people get those opportunities, and obviously you take an opportunity, you got to create something with it. But again, I talked about hitching your wagon to the right people. There's not many Ed Holloways in the world. He is a very, very special entrepreneur and unbelievably giving man. So I give a lot of credit to him.
Nice.
So
very good.
Yep.
So you've been praised for your people skills and team building skills. So how do you create a positive, enriching culture at your company? I think that's a skill that not many leaders have.
I go back to my father, I go back to my mother, I go back to Coach Dan Broad at Ashland University, where I played was more of a practice rat. We had very good players that played ahead of me, but I wanted to play college basketball, and I ended up going to a program and he taught me unbelievable people skills.
Nice.
And then to be quite honest with you, I work for some coaches that didn't have great people skills, and I saw them, communicate to an athlete and or communicate to an administrator in a negative fashion, where I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy.
Right.
So you learn as much from the good people that you get to be blessed to be around as people that, I'm not saying they're bad people, but people that don't have those skills. And you say, I'm not going to, when I have a chance to be a head coach or to be an executive with a company, or to be the CEO of a company, in those chapters along my life is, I've taken the good and bad and put my own personality to it and emulate, treat people the way you want to be treated. I think the art of communicating face to face with somebody and truly being transparent, being able to deliver a difference of opinion or negative news is getting lost in our country, in our society. I'm very frank with my team. And 90%, 95% of what we talk about is always positive. But when there's got to be bad news, or there's something I didn't think was done in the vein of what we're trying to do at Syrcuit, you have those conversations. And you don't do it over text. You don't do it over email. We hide behind that. It's amazing how rude we can be to each other over a text message. Or maybe you're not trying to be rude, but you didn't put an exclamation point at the end of your comment, so it was taken 180 degrees the wrong way. I mean, I think just be transparent, be honest, be forthright, and treat people the way you want to be treated are skills that I try to emulate, and I think unfortunately a lot of folks were losing those skills.
Yes, yes. So keep on setting the example.
Yeah, thank you.
So you and Tara hosted the 2024 Cattle Barons Ball for American Cancer Society, and the theme was it takes a village to end cancer. And tell us about that. You guys raised a record amount of donations. Tell us all about that.
When I was done coaching, it was Nancy Clark, who was running American Cancer Society at the time here locally. Someone had recommended me to help with the event, and I had no idea. I'd never attended. I just didn't know much about it, and I kind of thrown into the wolves. And they said, "Okay, you have a deep network. You're running the silent auction," and I did that in like 2006, 2007. And then as I got busy with kids were in middle school sports and or t-ball or whatever it was, and building a company in my synergy years, I kind of took a step back from all of that, but I had a passion for it. I think I'm in my 8th year serving on the World Food Bank Board. I have, at one chapter of my life, I served on the Poudre Learning Center Board. In fact, when you're in their room in there and you see the big canoe on the end, that was a sizable donation from SRC Energy, which Synergy morphed into. Nice. In our chapter before we divested and merged with PDC Energy, and very appreciative of our board and our management team there, allowing us to get them across the finish line to make that facility happen. So I served on that board for a period of time as part of that. We had the Energy Institute there, where we're trying to tell everybody, kind of parlays into what we're doing today. I was oil and gas, but also knowing that geothermal and solar and wind we need all above. We need all energies, and that Energy Institute that we formed through my tenure at Synergy Resources, I don't think they're still doing it. I think COVID kind of slowed it. We were teaching the teachers about energy, so they could teach their classrooms, what fracking was, or what a wind turbine was, or how geothermal works and all that. And it was enlightening to me to be in front of folks that are educating our young folks that they really had no concept of what happens on an oil and gas rig, to how those hydrocarbons get to market and how safe it is, and what the, all the stopgaps are in place to continue it as safe. And And the fact that every time you flip a switch, natural gas or oil had a hand in that, and it's in everything we weigh. So
Yeah.
I can go on and on and on about that. But those, when you talk about what we did at Cattle Barons, it's just a microcosm of what our community is. I mean, Tara and I fortunately have a deep network of folks. And we've been around these events enough. We know who the doers are and who wants to be there to have their name in the program that night.
Mm-hmm.
So we aligned a lot of doers into the different committees. It truly takes a village of committee people that really put forth the next steps and take their expertise or their network to sell tables, to decorate, to I don't want to start naming people, but I'm going to leave somebody out, so I won't name anybody but Tara. And her and I just kind of divided and conquered. She has helped on the marketing side since she's been in Greeley. I have stayed engaged with Cattle Barons and ACS in the past 3 or 4 years on the corporate committee side, which is selling the tables and trying to utilize my network to make sure that we raise a good portion of that night's revenue from the table sales prior to the event. And then you want to make sure the right people are attending that are willing to raise their paddles or buy auction items at the highest levels, because that's the revenue stream. So we were tasked, our very first thing when they asked us to chair, both our reaction was, oh, heck no.
Right.
Just because we're both building business and we have 6 kids in all stages of life. And I finally looked at her and I said, we have to do this. And she says, you're right. We have to do this. You don't get these callings often, and it's more important than, washing the car one evening to be on a Zoom call making sure that the corp committee's doing their part.
Right.
I mean, or, a social night, you give your time to, but the social part that comes from being a part of one of those events is phenomenal too. I got to know you better. There were so many folks that I didn't know very well, that stepped up and were a part of it, whether it's setup, cleanup, day of, and you're just like, wow, this village really came out. And they asked us, you got to pick a theme, and I have said that since my coaching days. Hey, we can only be successful with the UNC Bears program if our village is behind us. We got to have the boosters. We got to have the fans in the seat. We've got to have the custodian keeping care of. And I made sure at practice, if we saw him in there, my team went over and gave him knuckles for making sure the floor was clean for us. And I learned those things from my previous coaches, and or my dad, and or my uncles, and those, you just try to always stay grounded and remember where you came from. But the village theme came. I looked at Tara and I said, it takes a village. We're going to have to stand a village up to make this event successful, and the village of Greeley in northern Colorado needs to come out and be generous to make the event successful. And for us, knock on wood, but I mean, son of a gun, the number of people affected by cancer that I've known. Tara and I, fortunately, in our immediate family, haven't had too many extreme ventures of cancer influence. We've had relatives and cousins and things that have battled, but my friend network is deep, and I unfortunately can name a half dozen people right now that are in tough places battling cancer, and so the cause was very easy to rally around.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
And I too have volunteered over the years with the American Cancer Society Cattle Barons Ball in one capacity or another, mostly in past years helping with social media. But this year I volunteered in person. And it was amazing to see how organized it was. Past years have been organized as well, but and every idea that you guys had that you brought to life there was just incredible. Like when you first arrived, coming through that tunnel, for lack of a better description, with the portraits of people that we have lost that have succumbed to cancer, and right away it hits the hearts, and everything about it this year was just really, really amazing.
Thank
and
you.
I loved the basketball players too, volunteering.
And that the coaches rallied. We reached out to our network and again the village. And that was offline before now, or in your questions you'd shared, how did you guys, Tara and you, divide and conquer?
Yeah.
And we never really had a sit down to say, okay, I'm going to tackle this, you're going to tackle that, because she'd been around it and she'd been involved in marketing and she was there for day of and night of and cleaning, and I'd been there probably 6 or 8 times over the years in a working capacity, and she'd been there 3 straight years. We just knew what our skill sets were and what we would go get done.
Yeah.
And I think there was once or twice where stress was high for me with something at work, and vice versa, she was busy with something, and it was like, can you handle this for me? I don't have the bandwidth today to even get on this call. I've got so much other stuff going on. And we just tackled it and had each other's back, and that's the true partnership that her and I are very fortunate to be in our marriage and growing each other's business. I could not build Syrcuit Energy and create the value that we're creating and the opportunities that we're creating for all things Syrcuit's going to bring to northern Colorado and across the state and region without her support. And I appreciated coming to town. I have to give you a little aside. One story that I love, and she thinks it's embellished, but I'm going to tell it anyway. When we came to Greeley together in 2020 during COVID, one of the safe havens that we would go is play golf at Greeley Country Club. And I would see my fellow friends and network out there, and I'm still known as Coach out there. Hey, Coach, introduce us to Tara. I introduce her. Now we show up at the country club, and it's, hey, Tara. And what's up, Craig? So she's done so much with her magazines, made such an impact on business to business, getting the word out about all great stories of multi-generational to successes to helping people that need the advertisement and marketing through, because it really emulates what Greeley is, and she's earned that. I tell her all the time she's the next mayor. And, oh, heck no. And I don't want her to be, because that's even more time away from our busy schedules.
Right.
So, and we got great people running our city already.
Yeah,
so,
we do.
Yep.
We sure do.
Yep.
Greeley Lifestyle Magazine is really like getting a monthly yearbook, high school yearbook,
Yeah.
It reflects Greeley and all the wonderful things going on in the community. And it's an amazing publication.
Yeah.
I've told her that every issue should be in the Greeley Museum.
It's hard for me to believe, but here in 2 more issues, she'll be at 4 years. And it's
What?
just,
Where did the time
and
go?
I'm like,
Oh my
we've got to
gosh.
do something in May for your 50th magazine.
That's a great idea.
50th iteration of, and there's ones that she's extremely proud of, and there's ones she's like, I wish we did this a little better. And I'm like, and it's just like cattle barons. You're like, it was so organized. Well, there was 3 or 4 things where I was like, man, that didn't, but nobody knew because it was behind the scenes.
No.
And, that's a tribute to, again, the committee of folks that, divided and conquered and kept their space moving in a positive manner. And it's just like that with the magazine. If you miss something, or I wish I'd put, this into the city scene or one of the special, nobody knows that you missed it.
Right.
And to be quite honest with you, it goes back to my coaching days. People would open the Greeley Tribune after a home loss, and they're like, "Oh, the Bears lost last night." Their lives still go on. It was what I slept it, ate it, drank it. It was my 24/7, and I hated to read that we lost, even though I was, I'm there every moment of every second of that game. But I just didn't want the community because I'm too competitive. So we want to do best always. So,
Right.
yeah.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, your 8 is somebody else's 10.
Yes.
And done is better than perfect. Most
Well
of the time.
said. I'm gonna use that. That's well said. Thank you. Yeah.
So just a couple last questions. First, what advice would you give to someone just starting out in their career, whether in sports or business or nonprofit?
Yeah, I mean, and it's an old cliche, but I talked about hitching your wagon. It's again, it's kind of bringing full circle of things we've discussed already is represent who you want to be and who you want to represent always. I'll go to a chamber event, or I'll go to any other event around town, and I'll see a young professional, and I'm like, I can't believe they showed up dressed like that. They're trying to make an impression on somebody here, or they're in sales, or what are we thinking? And that's me being critical of, a young professional. And then I also, to the inverse of that, is someone walks in and you're like, man, I'd hire that guy tomorrow. Man, she is presenting herself in such a great way. If I ever had an opportunity to bring her onto my team, I would. And that's who you want to. That's who you want to be. So, it is. It's I tell our kids, I'm like, listen, they're so influential between even 15 to 28 now. Is if you have to pause and wonder what mom or dad are going to think of your decision right now, you're in a gray area, and you better get to black or white, and make the right decision as you venture out of that, because we're teaching you values and we're teaching you right from wrong, but only you can do that when our eyes aren't on you. And as a young professional, you need to be that person. You need to, hey, that text message. Think about what you're saying. I absolutely hate the yes and no text messages. My text messages are long, and I probably put too much in there because I want to make sure that what I'm trying to communicate is communicated properly. And it's just, be who you want to be and hitch your wagon, as I said earlier, to people that, and or products and or, that you believe in, and you can truly sell and put your personality behind. And then I think even bigger than that is own your mistakes. Yeah. We are gonna make mistakes. And you need to own it, learn from it, move on, and then don't repeat it.
Right.
But then also communicate those. I only have a team of 6, but we have a bunch of contract people building our business, and I'm having kind of close out 2024 to visions and goals for 2025 meetings one-on-one with my folks right now. And it's like, make sure that they're aligned with where you're trying to lead this thing, Craig, but also I learn from them every day. I love getting input from our team because they all have their own experiences. And you know what, Craig, I appreciate what you're telling me, but shouldn't we look at this in a different vein? And as a leader, or as I'm an employee we have shareholders, so I'm an employee also. I don't own the thing. I have a good position in it. So the more value we create, the better I do for my family. But I'm going to be open-minded. There are no dictatorships in what we're trying to build. And I think as a business leader, hopefully someone listens to this and says, you know what, I need to check myself. Am I listening to my team? Am I truly, or is it just my way or the highway? And there's obviously different styles, and my style is not a dictator.
Good.
So,
yeah. So basically, show up, dressed to impress. Know your values. It wouldn't hurt to write them down, I think.
Yeah.
Because you get more clear on them.
Yep.
And those can change over the years.
That's adjustable, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And listen. And maybe over-communicate, because that's better than not communicating.
Yeah, I think all of those things are wonderful traits for young professionals to have.
Nice.
Yep.
Last question. If you could go back in time to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Wow.
What advice would you give him?
Well, I think it all kind of is in the same vein of what we've already said. Obviously, any decisions made that didn't turn out well, you got to live those experiences. So, don't be afraid. Again, represent yourself as we just discussed, and present yourself professionally. I was all of those things because I was taught those things or led to those things by great, great people and great leaders. You know, understand the chapters. I watch some young professionals that think they know it all right now, and they haven't. They may be really good in their silo in their space of what their expertise is, but boy, have your ears wide open and be willing to be a sponge and learn. And I think I did those things really well. That's why I'm successful today and can lead, you know, nonprofit events to business growth to the network of people that I run with are all successful people, fortunately. But I don't limit myself to that. I would. You touched on it earlier, and I'm critical of myself for it. I would be more present for family. You know, a low point of my life was a divorce of my children's, you know, mom, and a lot of that was because I am so type A on build business that I wasn't there, and it takes two to not have a successful marriage. So, but what I could do differently, and the lessons learned from that make me a better husband and a better father for that failure. So, you know, just look yourself in the eyes and know that you're not perfect, and I got a ton to learn. In my stage of my career, I still have a ton to learn, and you know, just be open to it.
Perfect. Always be learning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Craig Rasmussen, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this
I
podcast.
appreciate it. It was great.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's our wrap.